Welcome to the Retrospect podcast, a show where people come together from different walks of life and discuss a topic from their generation's perspective. My name is Ian, and as always, I'm joined by Stoney.
Hello.
And Jason.
Hello, everyone.
We had a little mess up there. I did a little fumble, but that's okay. I can fix that in post. Don't worry.
Well, you know, I mean, I'm honored to be actually be called back. I mean, he was my predecessor on this show, and he did a great job. Right. And it's been tough shoes to follow. I mean, to fill. So
what is it called? A Freudian slip?
Yeah,
where
well,
I think I was
brain fart.
I reverted
you must have
back
been thinking. You must have been thinking about it.
Well, I think I think something happened where I just went back to.
I am attempting to take X-Man's place, and sometimes it can be tough.
That's right.
Well, X-Man, if you're listening out there,
all right.
Thank you for all the hard work you did putting into the podcast prior to me coming on the show.
Yes,
that's right.
But nevertheless, we're still glad to have you here. I didn't mean anything by that.
No,
that was just literally
not at all.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so what are we talking about today?
Well, before we get started, I have a listener had left a rating and a review that I'd like to read right quick if y'all don't mind.
Absolutely.
Sure.
This was left on Apple Podcast for us. Generational perspective, 5 stars. I absolutely love the different generational perspectives featured in this podcast! ! By offering 3 distinctly different opinions and views on broad and local topics, it allows the opportunity for everyone to agree with someone. You should definitely check them out. There's an episode for everyone, whether you enjoy history, politics, true crime, or influential topics, or just relatable facts. Great job, guys. Ashley.
Wow. Thank you, Ashley, for that.
Thank you very much.
That's very nice of you.
She makes us seem like we do so much. We're like a multifaceted podcast.
Well, you know,
true crime and everything else.
We do cover a wide variety of things. So I mean, that's that's a strong point of this podcast.
It's just different to hear it in someone else's words, because I don't think those are some of the things I would describe. But I'm like, but they're not wrong though. Those are the things that we've done in the past. So.
Yeah, we're that's great that we're reaching the people that we are. I guess our perspectives are actually resonating out there. So
we need to go ahead. I think there's an abundant wealth of true crime out there that I think we're not fully capitalizing on. Now that I'm hearing that someone actually,
well, maybe we need to do another episode on some crime topic.
Yeah, I just think that people love that. I've realized that people really love true crime stuff. So.
And as a generational show, that the way we can do true crime is a little bit different than the other shows who just blurt out stuff, and people listen. We have a very unique perspective from that because we can look at it from 3 different angles, 3 different generational angles, 3 different lifestyle, angles, and how it affects us. Yeah. And it affects people in our genre, married, single, almost married, all kind of stuff.
Yeah, right? I think what you'll see from a generational standpoint when it comes to this topic, one of the big things I believe would come out is the general acceptance of crime.
Really?
Yes,
I agree with that.
I think as it becomes more and more prevalent, I think as generations or I'll be very curious what Generation Z would think of crime versus a millennial and Generation X and then baby boomers.
Well, Generation Z thinks of crime as First Amendment, freedom of speech.
Yeah, it's taking on a little bit more of a different, kind of a Marxist type of kind of overview. But yeah, it'd be very interesting to see a conversation like that, and that might be something to look at as crime in a general sense of how it plays upon the population.
I like that. We can add that to the whiteboard. How about that?
Yeah.
But that is not today's topic. What are we going to be discussing today?
we're going to be discussing a balanced life.
Wow.
And what that means.
Does anybody have a definition handy? Because I do. If nobody else does,
the first, Stoney, go ahead and do it.
I would say the first thing that comes to my mind is like a work-life balance. That is the big thing for me that I have as an artist and as a professional in many creative aspects. Having a balance between like shutting off and having personal time at home or personal time for family, and then like knowing when to like work at home if need be. Has been a very fine line I've had to ride for a long time.
I've got a lot of statistics on work-life balance.
Okay.
So if we're going in that direction.
Cool.
But Stoney, I want to hear this definition.
I got a pretty good definition here.
Okay.
Balance refers to the harmonious distribution of time, energy, and attention across different aspects of our lives. It involves finding equilibrium between various roles, responsibilities, and personal needs. Just as a tightrope walker maintains balance to stay steady, we too need to balance different areas of our lives to achieve a sense of stability and satisfaction.
True. That's very true.
Yeah.
How about that? That's pretty cool.
That's pretty
right?
good. I've got something else, which I think is a little bit different.
Okay.
But I have, and it kind of starts off with the negative. An unbalanced life does not have any goals or vision for your future.
Whoa.
Okay.
Typically, a balanced life is when the person is working towards achieving something better for themselves and others they love. When you're living an unbalanced life, you're just letting life take you and fling you around.
Okay, I like that.
I thought that was pretty
a good second to the first definition.
I think that was kind of a little bit different flair on it. But
it balances the definition out.
Yes.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, it works out. I mean, but I like that idea of goals and vision in life.
Right.
So many of us are just kind of like on this floundering ship.
Well, think about it. In the first
ocean,
definition, they used a tightrope walker. Well, he has a goal to get to the other side without falling off.
Right.
So if you have a goal, there's certain things you're going to have to do to achieve that goal. And if you do too much on one side, you're going off the side. If the wind blows too much on this side and you don't do something to balance that, you're going off the other side. So that makes a lot of sense. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, how do we get to a point where we're so overloaded with things? I mean, what causes this unbalance in life that is it because we want to do too much?
I think,
or out of a sense of, I want to help you, but I'm really doing something that's going to hurt me in the long run if I do this. What do you think? I mean,
for me, I feel in this modern day, I think we've had this discussion before on the podcast, but I feel like it is praised for doing like more things with your time. I forgot what episode it was we talked about this, where it's like a person that is, it was the glorification of busy, where like the person that is like doing more things.
Okay, then. Wow, I hope these mics for the studio are good,
that
because
was
we
that
have
was
a thunderstorm
serious
out here, and that shook the studio.
When we hear it through the
the soundboard, wow.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
So anyway, it was I think in this modern day, at least in this Western society of the States, the more that you do, the more busy you are, the more things that you do. I think it tends to be looked upon more highly, and so I think that's where that fine line is, that you got to do more to keep up, I guess, this appearance that you are busy and that you are productive and all that kind of stuff. And another, like a little side tangent to that, I think the younger generation, like in this time frame, I think it's also like loneliness is a big thing. that they keep themselves busy because they don't want to be alone. I've watched some videos and heard some statistics about that. Gen Z, as far as like loneliness is concerned, is very, very high. So,
well, I actually have some. Speaking of statistics, I do this.
Mm-hmm.
I have this. Millennials and Gen Zers are the least satisfied with their work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
A nationwide survey indicated that younger generations like millennials and Gen Zers were the most dissatisfied with their work-life balance, despite the fact that they work less than older generations.
Well, they don't want to work at all. That's why.
Interesting.
So they said this study found nearly a quarter of Gen Zers were unhappy with their work-life balance, even though they clock in just 38 hours a week.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. Reveal that another statistic here revealed that 18% of millennials felt the same, working 42 hours weekly, then compared to the 16% of Generation X and 12% for baby boomers.
Wow.
So, and another term that I thought this was pretty interesting. 40% of millennials identify as work martyrs.
What does that mean?
I guess they're slaves to their, perceived profession or whatever they do. Yeah. The idea of work martyrs, I was like, what is work martyrs? But yeah it's
like martyr as in like
a typical martyr,
yeah.
That you would think that someone would be, put to death for a cause or whatever the case may be. So
interesting. I may have felt that way working some corporate jobs where I felt like just another person in the machine, but at the same time, like I had people that I cared about on the team, and it felt like a team. So that may be the difference, I guess, is that 40%, I guess, may not feel a place in a team or feel like they're making a difference, but I don't know.
Yeah, it says millennials are known as the burnout generation.
I believe that.
And they say, some 40% of millennials are work martyrs, while 48% of them think that this is a well-earned nickname. Nearly 37% of them are not using all of their paid time off and take 10 vacation days per year or less.
Wow.
So, but there's consequences to being unhappy at work. I think we've all have seen statistics showing that people that have stress at work they're 2 times more likely to have a heart attack or stroke. Yep. There's a lot of chronic illnesses associated with burnout at work. And there's been times in my work career that I have felt this sort of stress before. A lot of it just depends on your working environment at that particular time in your life.
That was what I was going to say. For me, wholeheartedly, the times that I've experienced burnout was because like a team shift had happened, change of management, other coworkers that really made the job enjoyable left, like things like that were the things that were deciding factors for me about leaving. A lot of times, like eventually when I left working at the coffee shop, it was because I had a handful of friends that had better opportunities. And so obviously, congratulations to them. And I said goodbye to them, but they were the ones that could really help make the job fun. And I loved it. And we had a manager that was a little bit obnoxious to kind of work around. And then whenever, what hit the fan and the good employees left, all of a sudden it was like a little bit harder to the little obnoxiousness of it all really was kind of blown out of proportion because you could really see the struggle and the frustration, and then eventually led to me.
One thing I will say is one thing I appreciate with the younger generations that have now are past Gen X,
right,
is I think not that I believe people should work, because I believe work I think is healthy for the brain within reason. I do appreciate the millennial view. I think you all have a better appreciation of a work-life balance versus my generation and probably previous generations that had to, it was ingrained to work hard.
Well, they're looked at in different ways. Work-life integration. The baby boomers often value a clear separation between work and a personal life. We prioritize the stability and traditional work arrangements, whereas Generation X started embracing the concept of work-life balance, but faced challenges in achieving it due to the high career aspirations and demanding work environments coming, like we talked in the other one, in the early 80s, and
the glorification
of
the busy.
It's kind of funny how we keep coming back to
this.
But millennials prioritize a work-life integration and seek flexible work arrangements that allow them to maintain healthy work-life harmony. Yep. But Gen Z, entering the workforce, emphasizes work-life integration even more, valuing flexibility, remote work options, and purpose-driven careers. So it's a huge generational shift from these four generations,
and I think part of that has something to do probably with technology. Mm-hmm. I think back really from my generation and then in yours, Stoney, you had to show up at the office.
Yeah, there's no working from home.
There's no working from home.
Right.
You can't work remotely. The job was where you drove to or took a bus to every day of your life.
Yeah.
Whereas now, work can be done almost anywhere.
Right. Can I prove your point?
Yeah.
True. The job, my day job, my current job that I'm working, my boss and I have a pretty close relationship, and he is pretty flexible with my work hours. He wants me in the office, for certain hours during the week, but for the most part, he's like, as long as you get the work done in a timely manner, doesn't really matter. And I have not taken that opportunity for granted at all. And so there was today specifically, before we were recording this episode, I had to run an errand before we started recording, before you guys got here. So I was like, okay, I know I need to leave the office at this time to go run the errand, to go home, to then do the podcast. But I didn't quite finish the project, so I just stepped into his office and was like, I'm going to finish the project later this evening, and I'll probably send you a link to review it either tonight or tomorrow morning. And he's like, cool, sounds good. And I usually don't go into the office on Fridays, so I'm like, but that's the kind of that's the work-life relationship that I have, is that tonight I'm going to probably edit this podcast episode, edit that project, and then I'm done for my work week, and then my weekend starts. But that's kind of
It's kind of funny you rolled into that one, because my next topic or subtopic that I'd like to talk about is time management and prioritization and the different generational shifts on that. Effective time management and prioritization skills are crucial for achieving a balanced life. That's important to all of us on a day-to-day basis. Yep. Each generation has its own approach to maintaining time and juggling various responsibilities. The baby boomers are often characterized by their strong work ethic and focus on completing tasks in a linear and sequential manner. I remember my dad saying, I don't take a dump at work because that's stealing company time. And I popped off and said, well, maybe if you took a dump more often, you wouldn't be so grumpy. And he backhanded me into the wall. But he was ahead of the baby boomers.
Right.
Generation X developed time management skills by balancing multiple responsibilities like career, family, and personal growth all together. And y'all, Jason, y'all really worked. Y'all pioneered that balancing act.
I would agree with that. The idea that it kind of started coalescing with us.
Because a lot of people had to do single parent families. It compounded from there. Millennials, influenced by technology and the digital age, have adopted multitasking and leveraging productivity tools to manage their time effectively. So they're really using that help. And Gen Z takes that even to the next step. They're born into a highly connected and fast-paced world, has grown up with technology, and seeks efficient ways to manage their time through apps, reminders, and schedules. So time management, and we're all looking at it kind of in different ways. We just kind of compartmentalized it and touched a little bit of everything through the day and tried to get it done. Wherever, these guys now, their phone goes, dee-dee, you need to do this, dee-dee. And I even do that too.
Right.
We have something every Monday morning. It's a huddle. We get busy. I have an alarm that goes off. Hey, take your dumb butt to the huddle.
Right.
Just to remind me that I got 5 minutes to get to my huddle. So there's benefits to all of this.
Oh, yeah. There is something in particular that I do that I learned from a friend of mine. And it is during big projects that I know need to get done that are usually creative in nature or something that's important, so as to not burn out, I do things in increments. Like I will do like a sit down of like 30 minutes worth of like dedicated work towards the project, and then I'll take a 5-minute break and then just sit at the computer for a second and then just not think about the project itself, but just kind of like sit back for a second and take a deep breath and go like, okay, so like where am I moving next? What we got? Get some water, walk around, and then do another 30-minute session. And I'll do like usually like 2 or 3 of those for like at least like an hour or two. And I've noticed for myself, if I intentionally work, have a little timer that can tell me like, okay, we're almost to like a little break time where we can just like step back for a second and not get too bogged down with it. It's helped me a whole lot to be able to like work hard, separate for a second, work hard, separate, so that way I'm not, because I used to be able to, I think I did power through like full long sessions before, and I just don't think I did as good of a job as I could have, and it took me a minute to like admit that, where I was like, I think if I was to like break this up a little bit, or like just, if not just breaking into 2 sections where I'm able to have like a 10-15 minute break where I can just step away, get something to drink or walk around and just like take my mind off of it. It is, I have noticed for myself, I can come back to this project and like really put more of myself into it. Or sometimes a lot of the things that I can't quite fix in the moment, taking that step away, that separation, helps me kind of logic my way through it a little bit more, so I can like go back to it and figure out how to fix a problem or whatever. So, but that's how I operate a lot of times, more often than not with the, bigger projects like that. That's
one of the things that I as I was researching, trying to get some material together for this episode, a lot of work-life balance and trying to kind of achieve this nirvana, that everybody's trying to look for. There was interesting. I read an article. It was in the New York Times. It was published in August 22nd, 2017 by a guy named Brad Stolberg, and he was basically saying that actually he was at his best when his life was unbalanced.
Oh, wow.
And it's funny here, and I've highlighted this because I found it just kind of striking. But, I'm paraphrasing here, but even so, I don't believe that balance, which essentially asks us to never go all in on anything, is the right solution. I think far better than striving for balance is striving for what psychologists call internal self-awareness, or the ability to see yourself clearly by assessing, monitoring, and proactively managing your core values, emotions, passions, behaviors, and impacts on others.
Wow.
Put differently, internal self-awareness is about creating the time and space to know yourself.
So
constantly check in with yourself, since your self changes over time, and then live your life accordingly.
So was that a more intelligent way of saying the same thing I just said?
I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it is.
Right.
It is. I think
it just knowing that feels right. Knowing my limitations and being able to take to help myself, I guess, be more committed to fully doing it.
I found
that's
this
interesting.
I found
that's great
because
that's
the thing is, the vast majority of stuff is like trying to reach this,
of course,
middle part.
It's their nirvana. It's the balance is their nirvana. And that was actually a section, if y'all don't mind, that I wanted to add to this was spiritual and inner growth. That was going to be, I love the way you did that because we don't plan this. We're not really scripted. Right. And that was something I was hoping y'all would let me talk about was spiritual and inner growth, finding that nirvana. And spiritual and inner growth focuses on nurturing one's inner self. How about that? Finding purpose, developing a deeper understanding of life beyond materialistic pursuits. It plays a significant role in achieving a holistic balance. Baby boomers often associate spiritual growth with religious practices and community involvement. They find meaning and fulfillment through organized religious institutions. Generation X explores spiritualities in more individualistic and introspective manner. They seek personal growth through self-help books, meditation, and alternative practices. And that's so true about Gen X, the yoga, all of these things that really started coming out.
That started coming out with us.
The mindfulness, And the millennials show a growing interest in mindfulness, meditation, and self-reflection. They seek spiritual growth through a blend of traditional and non-traditional practices, where Gen Z, here we go, characterized by a sense of social justice and global awareness, often seeks spirituality through activism, environmentalism, and humanitarian efforts.
Wow.
And this is all just, and understanding these generational perspectives in pursuing our passions. That can help us relate to each other, actually, and in a workplace, understanding what your fellow person is trying to do to find that zen or that nirvana, as Jason said. That's really important just to getting along with each other, too.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, I'm going to pose a question. Do you feel like you overcommit yourself?
Oh, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't we have this problem sometimes with promising things we really can't deliver? Or we do, but then we're frustrated that we can't do it. And we feel disappointed. And we let people down.
I never realized this until Mallory had been with me for an extended period of time, in our relationship. I mean, and she pointed it out, and I never thought about it until she had really called me out on it. She was like, "You do a lot," and I was like, "I don't think I do that much," and she's like, "No. You have a lot of things that you do. Like, there's a lot of plates that you spin, and you do a great job spinning all of them, but like, it's a lot." And sometimes, and I never realized it until she kind of put it into words like that. And then I started to see, like, whenever people try to add more things to my plate sometimes, and then I try to promise that I can do it, and then I'm overwhelmed. It kind of gave me a revelation of, like, maybe I am doing too much, and I need to be more intentional about saying no, respectfully, and, like,
respecting your boundaries.
Yeah, right. But then finding out, like, there is a boundary that I have, and I need to say no to some things. And yeah, so that was an interesting thing for me. Of, like, I don't think I had the perception of doing too much until an outsider looking in was like, "You need to, like, slow down and just take a break." And I'm like, you know what? That actually doesn't sound that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I've got some things here. We're talking about what are some signs that your life is unbalanced, and we can kind of explore some of these topics, but I mean, some of these are kind of broad. Lack of enthusiasm. Your passion kind of dies in you. Lack of inspiration.
That's true.
Small body injuries. That's that. It seemed like you get hurt more often. Negative attitude.
Oh, yeah.
Compensatory behaviors.
Like compensating?
It says the last of this list, but not the least of all, is the compensatory behaviors that we exert to make us feel good when we feel unbalanced. Shopping in excess, eating in excess, or dealing with life in excess in any way is the demonstration of lack of stability within and calls for regrouping of all senses, thoughts, and self-definitions into one focal point on which we can stand.
I have a friend of mine. His name is Chase, and I'll call him out right now because we always joke around about it. Is that guy doesn't sleep because he feels like he's gonna
gonna miss something.
He works too much, and then he's like,
he's a workaholic.
Well, I think it's because it's not that he's a workaholic. It's just that like his job demands a lot of him, and he therefore does what he has to do for his job. But at the same time, like he will go home, and then because he then wants to do what he wants to do, he will stay up for long amounts of time because it's like now it's my time, and I have to capitalize on my time. And it's like, but there's sometimes where I'm like, bro, you gotta sleep, you gotta take care of yourself. And he's like, I can't. It's time for me to, do what I want to do. And I'm like, that's fine, but.
Well, I couldn't let Jason be the only one with statistics.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So if you don't mind, we're gonna have to cut his legs out a little bit here. But I looked up 10 perspectives for a fulfilling life, and then I got some statistics behind each one of those. If y'all will indulge me.
Okay.
Number 1, mindfulness and meditation. Statistics, according to a recent study at the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health, 14.2 adults in the United States practice meditation in the last 12 months. So some people are looking toward that. Physical fitness and exercise. The World Health Organization, which I don't know about all that, reports that insufficient physical activity is leading risk factor for global mortality, contributing to 3.2 million deaths each year.
Wow.
Okay.
Work-life balance. A Gallup study found that 53% of Americans reported experiencing high levels of stress due to work-life imbalance. That's a huge number.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Emotional well-being and self-care. The American Psychological Association highlights that 44% of adults in the U.S. reported increased stress levels over the past 5 years. Financial stability and planning. Remember how we said, set those goals.
Yep.
So everything we're saying, y'all didn't know I was coming out with this, and we're hitting on those things. How about this one? A study conducted by the Federal Reserve indicated that 37% of Americans would struggle to cover an unexpected expense of $400. And I've said this on the podcast before. 75% of Americans are one major auto repair bill, like a blown engine or transmission, away from bankruptcy.
Yep, I've heard that.
Social connections and relationships. The National Institute on Aging emphasizes that maintaining strong social connections can reduce the risk of health issues, including depression and cognitive decline, which is what you just touched on right there. Pursuing personal passions and hobbies. The leisure activities in the United States found that 57% of adults engage in hobbies as a way to reduce stress and enhance creativity. Only 3 more, guys. But I think this is kind of fascinating. When you start breaking these numbers down.
There's a lot of information on this. I mean,
Time management and productivity. A survey conducted by the American Psychological Association revealed that 69% of adults feel stressed by having too little time to complete tasks. Environmental consciousness and sustainability. The United Nations Environment Program states that by 2050, the world's population will be projected to reach 9.7 billion, increasing the planet's pressure on, increasing pressure on the planet's resources. And the last one I have for y'all, cultural and intellectual growth. And this just blows my mind right here. This literally, because when we try to research, we do this researching for this podcast. The Pew Research Center found that 27% of American adults had not read a book in the past year.
Mm-hmm. Checks out.
Yeah. Wow.
The crazy thing for some of that was like, for some of those statistics, like I wonder how like COVID and the pandemic and everything have like made those figures like a lot worse, because some of them you were saying like in the past 5 years have gone up or whatever, which is crazy. And then another one was talking about how like hobbies and other creative activities have been ways of helping people decompress and all that. And that was That was how me doing podcasting all started.
Well,
it was through COVID.
It was through COVID, and it was because I wanted an extra hobby, and my roommate and I were talking about it for a long time.
You were stuck together anyway, right?
Exactly.
Hey, let's do a podcast.
Exactly.
Hey,
yeah. There's a reason I believe the United States. It seems that these statistics are overrepresented in the in America, and right. I think it. We touched on this in the busy episode. Mm-hmm. We have this idea of work, and we do things because we're trying to keep up with the Joneses,
right?
Mm-hmm. People are always feel like they can't work enough because they're afraid that I'm going to lose my job,
right?
If I don't. I mean, I was looking at this. Almost 50% of Americans consider themselves workaholics. Half the population.
That's crazy.
I mean,
I think that's more the X Gen and the Boomer generation. I don't think some of the Gen Z and the millennials really care that much about it. When you look at people in my generation stayed at a job for 30 years, right. And now the average job in the millennial and Gen Z is 2 to 3 years, and they're going to find something else. So I don't know.
Well, right now the United States is around, out of 40 countries, we're around 29th in this kind of balance stuff. And basically they use that as a criteria as those who work more than 50 hours a week.
Wow.
So we're 29th. That's
crazy.
But we also have to do that just to survive.
That's what I'm saying. I think our margins are so much tighter here. Mm-hmm. They say the more advanced the civilization is, the easier for it to fall.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think that we have to artificially we have to make more money because things cost more. Mm-hmm. We want more things. We perceive we need more things. Mm-hmm. And really because we're a consumer society now. We buy things. We don't produce things anymore.
Right. The hard part is I feel like we're at this comfortable part in our history right now where you could make a lot of money and not work a lot of hours. And it's this constant struggle of working the minimum amount of hours for the maximum amount of money you can. So that way you can enjoy the time that you have available to you. I remember conversations that I had with friends of mine that were graduating high school with me, and they all wanted to be welders at plants. And they were super excited about it. But I was I knew I was the Debbie Downer in that situation because I was yes, you're probably going to get paid a truckload of money. Mm-hmm. But you're also going to be working so many hours. And if it's during turnaround season, you can kiss your life goodbye. You're just going to be working all day, every day and I'm not going to lie to you, an astronomical amount of money, which is okay if that's what you want. But I was trying to open their eyes to that in a way. And then some of them heard me, some of them didn't. And they all went to go be welders. And some of them came back and they were and they repeated back the same thing that I told them. They were what is all this money? How much is all this money really worth if I don't have any free time to spend any of it? And I was
yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I think you have to look at, and once again, this is situational because for everybody, a work-life balance is different.
Right.
Because people value different things.
Of course.
In the case of this person working all these hours for a short period of time, maybe if I'm working to pay off a huge debt,
you're right,
that I have to pay off.
Right.
Okay, that's probably most financial people would tell you, yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Right.
The problem is when it becomes a normal thing and you have nothing to show for it.
Right.
I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. I'm working all these hours.
Of course.
But
there's no
what
goal.
do I have to show for this? I mean, am I satisfying some ultimate goal that I hope to satisfy or to accomplish?
Right, of course.
If we're not doing that, then that's where I think the idea of, you hear people all the time, I feel like I've worked, but I didn't accomplish anything.
Worked my butt off today, but I don't feel like I did anything.
You feel like you did anything. Yeah. So the problem is once that gets played out over time, then that's when burnout and the health issues that derive from this come from. But I feel like I don't have any other options.
Right.
Some people are in a pickle.
Of course.
I got family obligations. I got bills. I got medical things I got to pay off. Some of it is just unfortunate luck. And some things are just bad decisions people have made throughout their life because they're not, they have no discipline in their life.
I like what you said about, when we become so advanced, we create problems. There's a great quote by G. Michael Hupp. He wrote a apocalyptic novel, but the quote goes like this: hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. And so we're in you got this, and we did this on, what was it, the Great Filter episode. Yeah. It's funny how we keep touching back on all of our old episodes.
Some of this kind of runs together.
You got this whole cycle here of running, and we had good times, and now people are becoming weak. And now they're fixing to create this really hard time, and people are going to have to stand up to get past this. And we're going to have to start creating some strong people again to get past this really bad time that's coming down on us right now.
Yeah, I don't know how you change that, because
it's going to fix itself eventually.
Well, no one wants a disaster to befall, our country, or whatever the case may be. I've always said we are victims of our own success. We are the most powerful country in the world. There's really no threat to the United States at all. I mean, it's not like the idea that, some countries will come invade us, where you're actually going to see up close and personal what that might look like. Thank goodness we're not there. But we're at a decadent state because we are looking for something to motivate us. And I do believe part of the issues that we're having just overall in our society, I hate to put it this way, we're bored. So we're constantly looking for the next stimuli to, what is the reason I get up in the morning? Why do I do this?
But we're also looking to the wrong people for the answers. Right now, we're looking to the government for the answers. And Ronald Reagan said this best. He said the scariest 9 words ever said was, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." And right now, there's so many people looking for handouts from the government, looking for the government to solve all of our problems, and that's not the answer. Because strong men and women wouldn't be looking to the government. They would be looking to solve it themselves. But the minute the Roman Empire fell into the same condition. They got so big, their lives got so easy, the decadence fell into it, and then all of a sudden they became a welfare state.
They lost
the drive.
They lost the drive that made you great to begin with. I mean, America, you just look back to its foundings. It was a country that people came here to try to have a better life.
And knew they had to work for it.
And they felt like they had control over their outcome.
Right.
They wasn't like trapped in a system of a certain way and this was it. But we are. But part of this is how do we navigate this where at the same time we maintain the competitive edge that made America great, but at the same time also keeping life in perspective, that we need to understand that we need to back away too. And that's the challenge with this work-life balance, is trying to find. I personally think we've drifted too far over to the other side.
I agree.
I'm not saying, I'm not a firm, I don't believe in that we got to work your knuckles off. I mean, I don't believe our ancestors that had to work farms and work from sun up to sundown and having a horse and a mule plowing land to make that happen probably if they had a choice, they would not want to do that.
Right.
They had to do that out of necessity because that was the world in which they lived. But we have to find some means of
everything. And this is what I was talking about. I think we touched a little bit about this when we were discussing AI stuff. Is everything feels so easy. Everything feels like it's just a button press away, or you can get it delivered to you, or you can. I was doing something and I got advertisements for like pick up your groceries from the store, like order them online and just pull up into a parking spot and have someone else load them up there for you. And I was like, no, I like going to the store and walking around for a second and getting out of the house and like shopping for stuff. And I understand that people, and this is what I was talking about in I think that episode as well with AI. So I understand that there are people that probably can't and that they will utilize the service, but someone like myself who can walk around and can do that, I don't see why I shouldn't. And I think it's little aspects like that I think creep into all of our lives. It's just so much easier just to buy that thing or just to deliver that thing here and order it on Amazon or whatever you want to say.
Well,
whatever it is.
When Jason said people came to America, it was hard times.
Right.
And those hard times created strong people. And strong people want to make it easier for the next generation that comes out. What do parents say? Right. I don't want my kids to have to go through what I did. I want to make a better life for them.
Right.
Well, in a sense, you're not really helping them. Okay, because you're creating weak people,
right.
And you're creating people with their hands out, and you're creating people who don't want to work for themselves, and all they want is somebody else to do it for them. And then now all of a sudden, what do we got coming? Now we have the hard life getting ready to come back to us because the world is not going to be able to sustain this.
Right.
And the shit's fixing to hit the fan. And then what are we going to have? We're going to have hard times again, and we're going to be filled with a bunch of weak people, and only the strong are going to survive, and then we'll start the whole circle again.
You'll start the cycle all over again. Well, we're talking about some of the symptoms of this unbalance in life. Well, what are some of the things that we can do to kind of get that right perspective? I've got some things here that I think that kind of different things. So like if you're at work, set manageable goals each day.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing. Be efficient with your time.
Mm-hmm.
Ask for flexibility. Take some breaks every now and then. Breaks are good if you need to kind of reset your mind a little bit.
Like I said earlier.
Communicate effectively. We don't do a whole lot of that. And at home, unplug.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the kind of things that you can do to,
I think people also underestimate the power of stepping away from social media altogether for a brief or an extended period of time. I can't tell you how great that feels to as opposed to what it was once. I never really got super big into social media anyways, but there was a point in time where I did enjoy scrolling through Instagram or Facebook or whatever. And there was a point in time where I made a concerted effort to just step away, and I'm having a hard time wanting to go back because it feels like a drug that I'm kicking the
dopamine hit.
Right,
yeah.
It's a dopamine hit.
So like I feel like
to electronics.
I'm just I like my phone. I keep my emails on it, but I keep a very healthy distance from social media.
I recall in my work career there was a time that was very, very hard for me. I be honest with you, I came close to resigning. That's how bad it got for me. And I remember waking up at the wee hours of the morning and just going out and running because I needed to do something
right
to burn off this raging stuff that was going on in my head. That I was just like all this stress and disappointment and anger and not feeling like you can do anything right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, that was a horrible feeling. Thank God it passed. They say all things pass.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you, it was a bad time for me. And so I understand what it is to be trapped in an environment where you're miserable and unhappy.
There was the previous job that I worked at. It was I loved working there. Some dynamics shift in the staff, and it very quickly, I got put in a pickle because I got more responsibility because my supervisor had left. So I was very pleased by it, but that person did not have a good work-life balance at all and was always at the office. And so I got a raise as well as more responsibility. And what was hard about everything is that everyone told me, you don't have to fill his shoes. You don't have to be him. The expectation is just be you and be your best self, and that's all it is. Those were the words that everyone was saying, but the expectation was not that.
That's right.
And that was what was hard, was that person lived right around the corner and could be there at the drop of the hat. I could not be. And
that's a lot of pressure on you.
And there was a couple of times where it was starting to hamper Mallory and I's relationship because I couldn't have like just a dinner with her without worrying about getting an email about something or having to go up there on the weekends to fix something and stuff. And it very quickly, it was the pickle that I was in that was the expectation of the work. So I now got a raise. I now am in this new position. And I'm trying to fight for less work for myself because like now instead of having like 2 people on the team, like that were like leaders of the department, it was just one, it was just me. And I had some people, but like the work was not really disseminated correctly. So like it became very hard for me to like to sit down with my superiors and be like, hey, like I need to be like given less. But they were like, but we're paying you more. And I'm like, I hear you, but like I can't keep this up. And there was some, needless to say, it didn't end up going very well because there was a point where I was at my wit's end, where I was in the same position as you. I would wake up and be like, I just can't do this. I can't keep this up. This isn't sustainable in any way. And it got hard because there was people on the staff that were upset with me, because I tried to put boundaries in there that weren't there before, and they were upset because I wasn't, quote unquote, doing the job. And it was like, something's got to give, and I gave. I was like, I gotta.
One of the hardest things now, especially now with cell phones and these all these technological things we have now,
right?
Is work now it's 24/7 now. And it's hard to back in the old days when you left work, you left work,
right? Mm-hmm.
There was no way of reaching you,
right?
Well, then you're maybe a home phone, but
hey, look, in my job today, I've woken up in the middle of the night screaming, "Oh my God, did I forget to do this?" Or in the middle of the night.
Yeah, and you shouldn't be that way.
Well, it is. So,
right.
I have a couple of strategies.
Go ahead. What I can say is that the place that I'm at now, that I moved to. I made sure that was a thing right off the get-go. Mm-hmm. I was like, it was a flexible work schedule, but I was like, I would like to have at least 2 days off on the weekend in some capacity, but I know that there can be exceptions because I'm salaried.
Sure.
So it's like, I know, but that's what I want it to be. Mm-hmm. I want those days to be exceptions, not the rule. Whereas where I was at before, it felt like the rule was you're on call all day, every day. And I was like, I can't do that.
I mean,
so anyways.
And I like how you said that because now I would like to go into my strategies for achieving balance. Yep. And oddly enough, we're going to touch on some of that.
Yep.
So number 1 is setting priorities. Determining our priorities help us allocate our time, energy, and resources effectively. Identifying what matters to us enables us to make informed choices and focus on the areas that align with our values and goals. By setting clear priorities, we create a roadmap for a balanced life.
I agree.
Number 2, time management. Effective time management is key to achieving balance. By organizing our schedules, setting realistic deadlines, eliminating time-wasting activities, we create more space for things that truly matter. Prioritizing tasks and using tools like calendars, to-do lists, help us optimize our time and increase productivity. And here we go. This may be Ian's favorite one.
Oh, here we go.
Learning to say no. Learning to say no is a vital skill balancing our commitments. It is important to recognize our limits and not overextend ourselves. Saying no to tasks or responsibilities that do not align with our priorities allow us to focus on what truly matters, reducing stress and ensuring a healthier balance. This will be his favorite.
Uh-oh.
Establishing boundaries.
There you go.
Setting clear boundaries is crucial for maintaining balance in our relationships and personal lives. Communicating our needs, limits, and expectations with others ensures that our time and energy will be respected. Boundaries safeguard our well-being and create a supportive environment for personal growth and happiness.
That's awesome.
And I think this might be my favorite one. Seeking support and delegation. We don't have to do it all alone. Seeking support from loved ones, colleagues, or professionals can lighten our load and free up time and energy. Delegating tasks and responsibilities allow us to focus on areas that require our attention, creating space for balance and personal growth.
Very true.
How about that?
I agree with all of those.
I like that.
I think these are some really good, some ideas that if we can, I think if you just concentrate on one or two of them at a time,
right?
And let's work on this one, and then I'm a little bit better here. Let me try to work on this one.
The one for me was being intentional about time with the person that I care the most about, which is Mallory, my fiance, because the previous job that I was at was putting such a hindrance on it. She works half days on Fridays. I work half days on Sundays. So that's kind of the caveat is obviously we spend time on the weekends, but I try to always reserve Saturday for her because that was one thing that I could never do before. And so I was like, I want to make a concerted effort to not plan anything specifically on a Saturday unless I've already talked to Mallory beforehand to be like, hey, is this cool with you? So that way we both know that Saturdays is our day where we can run errands or go to the movies or have dinner together. It's things like that I make sure that's a core part of my schedule for rotating weeks out, is that Saturdays are probably not on the table. We can do things on Fridays and Saturdays, given the time. Those are kind of up for grabs for the weekends, but Saturdays are usually.
What is the one thing, and I'm going to throw this question out to both of y'all. What is the one thing that you all do to handle stress? What do you do to kind of diffuse some of that?
Research for this podcast.
That's part of the reason.
Honestly,
there's two things
all my rest comes in Miranda. I love my time with her. I love sharing time with her. I love doing things together. She's my peace. My relationship with God, comes from that. So I'll put him first and then Miranda next. And I find peace and comfort in that. And that helps me.
There's a handful of things. I feel like by nature I'm an introverted person, so I really recharge and gain my energy from being alone. I love being in groups of people. I love being with friends, but there's nothing like just being alone to help just re-energize myself. And if it's not playing a video game to kind of distract myself and kind of get my mind focused on something else, then it's probably music. Playing music, listening to music, writing music. That kind of has been that thing that has always been around since I was 13, that I could just pick up an instrument or listen to some music or something and just really just throw myself into that. And it just take my mind off of everything else, at the same time just calming me down, focusing on this task, focusing on this thing, and helping make that. Those are the stress relievers. But
what about you, Jason? If you say run, I'm going to throw my hat at you.
I mean, hey, that's his thing.
Actually, matter of fact, in part of this, in all this research, they found that exercising is very good.
Yes,
you're right.
So I do run, and part of it does help me. It does relax me. I do, get those endorphins help.
Right.
And so I enjoy running. I really do. But I enjoy reading a book.
Yeah.
Occasionally I do play video game, when I have time and I feel like sitting at the computer for a few hours and devoting some time to that. There's a couple things. It's a couple of things I like to do to kind of diffuse the day, but I'm also somewhat of an introvert. So, I go home and I'm by myself and I like that.
Right. Every other Friday I have a hangout at my home here. And that's one thing that, I love that. I love that it's every other week. I love that opportunity for my friends to come around. We all hang out and have a good time. We all get together. My roommate's birthday is actually tomorrow, so we're all going to come together and have a good hangout.
Okay.
But there is, after everyone goes home and I close the door, I love the feeling of everyone coming around, but at the same time, I like being able to just to sit down by myself and go, that felt good. But now I can kind of work on myself now in a way, so... But anyways,
all righty,
cool stuff.
This was a fun conversation. I liked this one, even though it was probably it rehashed on some stress and stuff from from previous jobs. But hey, it's part of life.
That's what the conversation was about. What can we balance life, and part of balancing life is handling the stress.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to deal with that, or it's going to eat you alive.
Yeah.
Right.
Listeners out there, please let us know. What are some of the strategies you employ to keep a work-life balance and keep your life in balance in general?
Or another way to phrase the question as well is, what do you think that you could do better to help balance your work and your life and relationship between all of them? Because I feel like there's always something we can change or do better at. So
I really, really like when listeners write in and let us know what's
too.
going on. And I like reading that. And
because it feels like it makes what happens in this small room here and between us, it makes it all of a sudden it connects it to something. It's like, that's a person that's like really vibing with what we're saying, which is really cool to hear.
Any and all comments are very much appreciated.
Right. I have to apologize on the previous episode. I messed up with these cool cards that we got. I said that it was .com. It's actually .cards. So for anybody out there, it is dot.cards/retrospect pod is how you get to all of our links. I said that incorrectly, and as I was editing the episode, I typed it in. I was like, "Oop, I messed up." But I'd already said it, and I was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna own it on the next episode, and we'll just correct it from here moving forward." So dot.cards/retrospect pod is how you get to all of our links and stuff now. But anyways, thank you so much for listening, and until next week, bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. God bless.
You're the best. Peace.